We heard Melinda say that we have at this point no clear idea on the role of AI in education. Gee, it's good to hear people speak plainly, isn't it? That is the truth of the matter. But we do know that AI is driving rapid and disruptive change in education and training systems, and that clearly there are going to be opportunities and clearly there are going to be challenges from that. There are a small number of people who know what they're talking about in this area, and we're pleased that one of them is in the room. Ray Fleming is the founder of Stratentia. He brings 30 years of industry experience to the issue. He was Chief AI Officer in Innovate GPT. He was the Higher Ed Lead at Microsoft and Global Education Solutions Lead at Global Cloud. So he really does know what he's talking about in this area. Please make him very welcome.
Good morning. How are we doing? Okay, so I've got a microphone, but I don't have a clicker. So if I hold my hand there, hopefully at some point it'll appear. Oh, look at that. How magical. Big green forward button. Yes, excellent. Gosh, Melinda, 5 years ago I started the AI in Education podcast. Now, that is in the age of what I call algorithmic AI. It was AI for the geeks and nerds, whichever is the polite phrase. And now we're in the age of human AI. It's a very different world that we're in. And the podcast audience has gone like that, but I've just realized I'm not making any money out of it. I need to go to Swinburne University. So it is amazing. It is amazing that we are here talking about AI and Canberra is alive for a conversation about AI, when in reality, we're now, 2.5 years into the age of generative AI. Just 2.5 years. And as you said, the adoption has been phenomenal. 8.6% of the world population is using ChatGPT on a weekly basis. It's astonishing. And no wonder, therefore, that it's confusing. We're only 2.5 years in. It's still developing. Things are moving at a massive pace. And I don't know about you, but I find it difficult to keep up. And yet, that's all the news I'm looking for every morning. Amazingly, there was no big news this morning around AI. First day for ages. And so things are moving incredibly fast. It's an incredible opportunity for us, but it's also got some implications ahead for us as well, hasn't it? I mean, it's moving at a pace that our systems don't support. The way we do things don't work in that way, where we wait for things to settle down before we decide to make changes for the future. And I can see lots of great reports telling us how much is going to change, but there's not that much clarity about what is going to happen. Every week, I read a new report about the implications on the workforce and which jobs are going to disappear and which jobs are going to be retained and which jobs are going to grow. And they're all very definitive and they're all very different. Nobody really knows what the future is going to be like. The good news is we've been here before. So this is the US in 1905. This is a street view in New York. Now in 1890, in the US, there were 13,800 businesses building carriages to be pulled by horses. There were hundreds of thousands of workers around the major cities that were involved with looking after the horses, running the stables, shoeing the horses, growing the feed for the horses. And yet this is what 1905 looked like. Horses everywhere. And this was 1925. Gone. Gone in maybe 10 or 15 years. And at the point that that disappeared, we had just 90 businesses left that were building carriages in the same way. So from 13,800 to 90 in the space of 20 years. A huge, huge shift. And I'm pretty willing to bet at the point that this was there, and we knew that there was a risk for the industries that were in this part of the picture, we didn't know what the right-hand side was going to look like. Now, what happened in the workforce in that time was by 1950s, 6.9 million jobs had been created in the auto industry. 11% of the workers in the auto industry. But at 1905, we didn't know that that was what was going to happen. And it kind of feels like that's where we are now. We know things are going to be changing, but I don't think we really know what the new jobs are going to be that are going to be created. And it's really interesting. I do a lot of work with individual organizations around their use of AI. I look at a lot of the stuff that's being published, and I break the adoption of AI into these three levels. There's a lot of talk about productivity at the moment. So it's great that we've got productivity on the end of these three titles. But I think there are three modes. The first mode is personal productivity, people adopting AI for their own use. The second is process productivity, when you look as an organization and say, hey, we can do these things in a smarter way. I saw a great post around using AI for RPL today and how you can just improve a process in a much smarter way. And then the third step is paradigm productivity. That's the Uber to the taxi industry. That's the Netflix to the Blockbuster, where they say the customer's goal is to do this. How do we help them? How do we get somebody to get from A to B? Not how do we run a taxi industry, how do we help a customer get from A to B? And almost all of the AI usage at the moment is up in that top line, personal productivity. Over half of our workers are using AI. Over half of our workers are not telling their boss about it. And I don't think I would either. If I found a really smart way to save a couple of hours a day, who is the last person that I would tell? I want that time for me. And so the opportunity ahead of us is to be able to work our way down through there. And the opportunity from an education perspective is, well, what do we have to do to be able to help organizations move down through there? Because there's personal productivity and there's personal skills. There's organizational skills. And then the interesting thing about the paradigm productivity model is often that is a disruptor from outside of the industry. The stories of history tell us it's going to be somebody from the outside that is going to come and disrupt. My fear in working with education for 40 years is that the paradigm disruptor for education might be from outside the sector rather than inside the sector. But it's very clear that in lots of industries, we're going to see this paradigm model. Somebody's going to come up with a new model for doing things in a new way. It's a really interesting set of challenges, opportunities. And if I think about it from an education perspective, it's a challenge to our processes and the way that we do things. How do we speed up the clock cycle of the way that we introduce things in order to be able to respond to this? Now, the great news is, I believe we've gone from an age of IQ, so algorithmic AI was all about IQ. You know, we could sit in a meeting and discuss how AI was going to be used, and we knew that AI was being used to create our Facebook feed or our Netflix recommendations. But the doing of it was left to the people in the hoodies that went out of the room and went and did things. We didn't necessarily understand how that was happening ourselves. Now, in the age of human AI, actually the skills we need to be able to use this technology and get the advantages from it are IQ and EQ. It's no longer just about the smartest person in the room, it's about having empathy. It's about understanding what the problem is that we're trying to solve. How many of you say please when you're talking to ChatGPT or Copilot? Yeah? Now, a year ago, the research said that was the smart thing to do because you got a better answer. New research now tells us that doesn't necessarily affect it. I still say please. I say please because when our robot overlords take over, they'll remember that I was the one that was nice to them. But it's really, really important to think about the empathy side of it. You know, I think it's fantastic for Australia that you need really good empathy to get the most out of developments with AI, because we can't offshore so many things anymore. You know, a developer that understands the technical aspects but doesn't understand what's going on in the mindset of a customer using this thing. You know, think of customer care. I mean, how many people have been frustrated as anything about using a customer care chatbot that doesn't understand customers and doesn't understand care? You need the empathy piece to be able to do it. And we're really strong at that combination of IQ and EQ. And I look at that and think it's fantastic, because I've had a career that spanned from being a technical developer right through customer support to marketing and all kinds of roles. And I'm a jack of all trades. And that's great, because I get to apply all of those things, because empathy comes into it. So that's great for our workforce and development of skills, but it also means that we need to make sure that we can address those skills issues at a holistic level, because no longer is it okay to just learn computer science if you don't understand psychology. So, in talking to a lot of people and a lot of organizations and thinking about the way that we think about how we integrate the learning about AI into the economy, one of the stories that I keep coming back to is the story of the blind man and the elephant. Does anybody know that story? You take a blind man to an elephant, and their perspective of that elephant is defined by the bit that they touch first. If they touch the nose, then they think it's a fire hose. If they touch the tail, they think they're touching a rope. If they touch the middle, they feel they're touching a wall. That is exactly like most people's experiences with AI today. Go and ask people around you what they think about AI, and you will get different perspectives based on what they have done. They've seen their children use it. They've seen their kids using it to cheat or to help them. They've used it to cheat. I have once used it to write a birthday card. I regret that now. Or they've received an email that they thought is well crafted and realized afterwards that it was well crafted by AI. Everybody's perception is different. And so, fantastic opportunity for us. Fantastic opportunity to be able to think about all the different needs of all the different groups. 80% of the people my age or in my age tick box on the ABS website do not have a degree. They don't have access into the higher education system. Fantastic opportunity, because they need to reskill as well. Now, there's some good news, and I wrote the numbers down so I didn't get them wrong. We are in 5th place for AI knowledge, skill. Oh, no, sorry. We're in 5th last place for AI skills, knowledge, and training around the world. We're in 6th last place for trust in AI. I think those two figures are related. We're 2nd to last in expected benefits from AI. My perspective is, where we are today, the only way is up. The only way is up. The challenge is, how do we respond in a way that is timely, meets the needs of the different cohorts? We need to teach the generation of engineers. We also need to teach the generation of users. We don't just need people that understand how the petrol engine works. We need people that know how to drive. And the great news is, fantastic opportunity. But somehow, it's a complex market need that needs to be delivered against. And the plan to deliver that is something that takes a while to develop at a pace of change where we're 2.5 years in and everybody is already using things. It's a fantastic opportunity, but it is a fantastic challenge. And the world is not going to stop. Like I often feel and say, if we did no more development of AI from today onwards, it will take us 5 years to catch up, maybe 10 years to catch up. Especially, I think, in Australian businesses where we live in a world where we're risk averse, where directors are trained that the role of running a company is to manage risk. And they feel that doing nothing is the way to manage risk. The less change you make, the less risk you introduce. Well, we know from the examples of the industry disruptors that if you don't make change, then the risk becomes existential. I don't think we fully understand that yet. And it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because as AI continues developing, it's easier to say, well, let's just wait until it settles down. But I think every day that goes by with things moving forward, with organizations and individuals not moving forward, is a day when things are going backwards in reality. So let me finish with maybe a warning message. Let's go back to the days of the Model T Ford, to the 1920s. Henry Ford produced his car in one color, and that color was black. And he produced it in black because black was the fastest drying paint. And it meant that on the production lines of the new Ford factory, they could produce a car where the painting only took 37 days. 37 days. That was the fast drying paint. So Henry Ford sent his engineers away, and the engineers came out with an improvement to the process. Great news. We can do it in 32 days. Meanwhile, on the other side of Detroit, we had Charles Kettering working at General Motors. Charles Kettering saw a new way to paint a vehicle where the paint would dry in 1 hour using lacquered paints. And so he painted a vehicle in an hour. And do you know what happened? Should be a wonderful story. It wasn't. Because what happened was, the engineers at GM said, well, no, that's no good. That doesn't fit in with the way we do things. We're not going to do that. And he was unable to convince the organization that painting a car in an hour instead of 37 days was a good thing. Now, the way he finally solved the problem, and I think I see this in the AI land as well, is he took his most suspicious and most resistant manager out to lunch. Then he stole his car and repainted the car, put it back in the car park. They came out from lunch. He had a new car and a new color car. And that was his way of demonstrating that it was possible. I see that all of the time in innovative organizations around using AI. It's now quicker to do it than it is to talk about doing it. It's quicker to build the experiment and find out if it works than to sit in a room and work out whether it might work or not. We're going to have that same kind of effect. And if you think about Kettering, the problem for Charles Kettering was not that he wasn't able to do it. It was that the people that were around him weren't willing to try to do things differently. We've got to have a conversation about innovation as much as we've got to have a conversation about AI. And when I think about the way that I work with organizations around skills, it's as much about the how as it is about the what. It's not just about AI, it's about how you do things. What are the ways to innovate? I have a friend who is a CIO in a retail bank. They approve mortgage applications in 12 minutes. And we had a conversation where we simply couldn't put our heads together around RPL and how long it takes to do some of those things compared to how long in other industries they're used to doing some of the complex tasks. Fantastic opportunity for us. I think today is going to give us some of the divergence this morning around what might we need to do. And then this afternoon, we're going to kick off with a panel as we start to go to converge on, well, what works? What is being tried? What is working? What is starting to make change? There's some fantastic examples both in this country and internationally. Thank you very much.
Now, as I understand it, the Minister has arrived, so that's terrific, and there certainly has been some chaos at Sydney Airport. Don't check your phone now, but go ahead and do it during morning tea. It looks like something out of a Hollywood movie. Here's what I'm interested in understanding, Ray. I spoke to QUT. I live in Brisbane, has just started a medical school. And so they got to imagine or reimagine how to teach doctors. So I was at the pharmacy the other day and the pharmacist said to me, one of the toughest things about doing a pharmacy degree is learning the names of all the drugs. And I felt like saying, why? Who cares? And the Dean of the medical school is saying, if you have an AI companion on a ward round, how does that change the medical education for the doctor? So they have reinvented a medical degree from the ground up, which doesn't involve kind of rote learning a whole lot of stuff. Now, to what extent is that the sort of thinking, transformational thinking, we need in training and skills?
Yeah, it's a brilliant question and a brilliant scenario, because I think we could all probably sit down and start to think about new ways that we do things. But I think the challenge that we have in the education system is that we feel constrained. Like when I work with regulated industries, they see regulation as an opportunity to work out how they can do what they want to do within the constraints of the regulation system. Often the same conversation in education becomes one of, oh, well, no, we can't do those things because we need to do compliance, we need to do regulation or whatever. I think the opportunity to rethink and do things in a new way has to be coupled with that innovation thinking. That it has to be about the whole organization understanding that things have to be different. Let me give you an example. Arizona State University in North America had a goal of 100 million students. So they didn't just want an extra million. They had 100 million students on their goal. They've now upped that goal to 250 million, and they are thinking like Netflix. They are thinking learning as a subscription, learning as a service, rather than come here, do this course, and at the end of 3 or 4 or 5 years, you get a tick, and that's it, you're done learning. And so I think that same mindset needs to apply. It's not about what's possible, it's about what we're going to allow ourselves to be able to do and how we think outside of the box in terms of what the market needs as much as what the regulations need.
As well as still having the same conversation that we've been admiring for so long about breaking down the silos between vocational education and university training, as Melinda was flagging again. These tied conversations. How do we get educational products to be more responsive and all of it? We need to do all that, but we actually need to do transformational thinking at the same time, because that's actually the sort of stuff we should have got done at the end of last century.
Yeah, so let me give you a short answer, because I know we're ready to move on. So super short answer. I would say, in the same way that Melinda said, have the education institutions in your strategic planning so that they understand what you need. As education organisations, have students in your planning. We have just finished on the podcast an interview series where we said, we want to hear from students, not what students should be doing, what students are doing. Amazing, amazing stories coming out. Get them with your teachers and you'll get some real shocks.
Please thank Ray. That was wonderful. I think this is your view. I'd now welcome Yasmin Allen back to the stage, the FSO Chair, to welcome the Minister.
Thanks, Ray, for your energy. We love that. So I'm delighted to welcome the Honourable Andrew Giles, MP, Minister for Skills and Training. Minister Giles was elected to the House of Representatives for Scullin in Victoria in 2013, and he was sworn in as Minister for Skills and Training in May this year. The Minister is a clear supporter of the education sector, and we do very much, Minister, appreciate your consistent approach building on the agenda set up by Minister O'Connor. Our programs need this continuity, as we were talking outside. It's a very fragmented sector and it can take a while to make an impact, so we really do appreciate your ongoing commitment to the sector. I'm really keen also to hear any insights or expectations you have for the Productivity Roundtable next week, and I hope we do get there as well to talk about some real initiatives. So welcome to the Minister, and we look forward to hearing your government's vision for this vital education agenda. Thank you.